My name is Delilah Granger. I'm 46 years old, and up until recently, I believed that family meant unconditional love. That illusion shattered the day I walked into my younger sister's backyard in Lexington, Kentucky, and overheard her, along with the rest of my family, laughing about how they hoped I got into a car crash so I wouldn't show up to the family barbecue. That moment changed everything. But instead of leaving, I smiled, walked right in, and pretended everything was fine. The next morning, I started quietly tearing their lives apart, one signature at a time. 5 years ago, I finalized my divorce from Miles. It wasn't ugly. We were simply two people who realized we weren't meant to walk the same road anymore. No kids, no alimony battles. I kept the house. He kept the lake cabin. Fair deal. I thought I was at peace. I traveled. I volunteered. I had a quiet, comfortable life in a paid-off brick home just outside of Lexington. I didn't have children of my own, but I poured everything I had into my family, especially into my baby sister, Taryn. Taryn, 8 years younger than me, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She married her high school sweetheart, Kurt, had 2 children before she was 30, and somehow inherited the love and favor of our aging parents. I gave her $50,000 as a down payment for her house when she cried on my couch about rising interest rates. I paid for my niece Madeline's orthodontics, sent my nephew Luca a brand new MacBook when he said his school laptop was slow, and handed my parents $18,000 for a new heat pump in the middle of winter. That's not counting the birthdays, Christmases, or random, we're struggling this month calls. So when I heard them laugh at the idea of me being dead, something inside me cracked and then hardened. I stood at the gate, clutching a homemade cherry cobbler, my hands shaking. "Where's Delilah?" I heard Taryn giggle. She probably flipped her car into a ditch. And then laughter, full-throated, unashamed. My mother, my father, Kurt. Even the kids, the same mouths that had kissed my cheek on holidays, now laughed at the idea of scraping my corpse off the asphalt. I stepped inside the gate. "Hey, y'all," I chirped like I hadn't just heard my family plotting my disappearance. Not a single hug, not even a "you made it." I placed the cobbler on the table and sat down alone. Nobody spoke to me the entire time, except Madeline when she asked me to pass the ketchup. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of cold tea and stared at the list I'd once made, titled, "Things I'm Leaving to My Family." It was time for a rewrite. Want to hear what happened next? You're gonna love it. But first, what would you do if your entire family wished you dead? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you're into stories where karma hits hard, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Now let's get back to it. The next morning, I called my old friend Janelle Avery, an estate attorney I'd met during the divorce. I told her everything. "I want to undo every legal tie to them," I said. "Every single one." She didn't flinch. "Bring me every document, will, insurance, bank account access, power of attorney. We'll burn their bridge." I spent the next 72 hours dismantling my legacy. I revoked Taryn's power of attorney and removed her and the kids from my will. I erased my parents from every account. I changed beneficiaries on my retirement funds and canceled their access to my home security system. Then I did the one thing they never saw coming. I hired a forensic accountant to audit every dollar I'd ever given them, every transfer, every cash withdrawal, and I found something interesting. Taryn had used my bank card for more than just school supplies. She'd been siphoning off funds for months, small purchases, hidden inside shared family expenses. I took screenshots. I saved the receipts. When I cut her off financially, she panicked. Taryn called me 2 days later, her voice shrill. "Delilah, what's going on? My card got declined at Kroger. Madeline needed her project materials." "You should have hoped harder for that crash," I said. "Maybe then you'd have my money." "You heard that," she stammered, clear as daylight. "You know we didn't mean it. You laughed, Taryn. You laughed at the thought of my death. Don't bother spinning it." Click. She showed up at my house that evening with Kurt. When her old key didn't work, she pounded on the door like a debt collector. I poured myself a glass of white wine and watched her yell from behind the curtains. The next day, she reported my erratic behavior to our parents. They called me repeatedly, scolding me for punishing the family. So I sent them each a certified letter, with one line printed in bold. "Do not contact me again unless through legal counsel. Next, I sold my house. Quietly. I moved into a luxury condo downtown with a private elevator and concierge. No one knew where I'd gone, not even Madeline. I made sure every mail forward was private. I changed my number. I started over. But karma. Karma had just begun her work. 3 weeks after I vanished, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, it was Madeline. Aunt Delilah's, please don't hang up. I know Mom messed up. I know what she said was wrong. I didn't mean to laugh. I didn't think you'd hear it. I'm really sorry. Please call me. Her voice cracked halfway through. She sounded different, scared maybe, or just lonely. I didn't call her back, but I didn't block her either. Later that night, I sat on the balcony of my new condo, looking out over downtown Lexington. I remembered Madeline at 5 years old, sitting on my lap during Christmas, begging me to let her open just one gift early. Her laugh used to sound like music. Now it echoed in my memory like a knife. The next twist came in the form of a letter mailed by Kurt, Taryn's husband. It was on cheap paper, written in ballpoint pen like a teenager's apology. Delilah, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know Taryn's been lying, about more than you think. She told our kids you were unstable. She said you were dangerous. That's why they laughed. They didn't understand the weight of what she said. They thought you were some crazy aunt who caused drama. I didn't laugh, Delilah. I froze. I didn't know what to say, and I let it happen. That's on me. But there's more, and you need to know. Kurt, no return address, no details, just those chilling words. There's more, and you need to know. 2 days later, I met with Janelle again. I need to know if I can press charges for unauthorized use of my bank cards. She frowned. You could, especially with proof, but even if it doesn't stick criminally, we can send a demand letter. That'll rattle her. Let's rattle. We drafted a formal cease and desist, listing every unauthorized purchase made under my name. Attached were screenshots of online orders I never placed, new shoes, spa treatments, and one hotel booking in Nashville. I stared at the hotel receipt. 2 nights, 1 room, 2 guests. Booked while Kurt was supposedly on a work trip. My blood went cold. I wasn't just being used, I was being played. Later that week, Madeline sent another message. Can we meet, please? I have something I think you need to see. I agreed on one condition. Public place, neutral ground, 1 hour. We met at a bakery downtown. She looked thinner, darker circles under her eyes. She handed me her phone without a word. Go to the messages with Mom, she said. I scrolled. What I saw made my stomach twist. Taryn, just keep telling her you're sorry, make her feel guilty, she'll cave. Taryn, remind her of how much she helped us. Say you miss her. Use the graduation thing, trust me. Taryn, if we can't get her back before March, we're screwed on taxes. I pushed the phone back. She coached you. Madeline nodded, tears welling. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to believe she was using you, but then I saw this. She pulled out a crumpled printout, an old copy of my life insurance policy. She kept this in her closet. It still had you listed as giving her full access. Even after you said you changed everything. I clenched my fists. So she was planning something, in case I didn't forgive her. I don't know, Madeline whispered, but I'm scared of her now. I slid my coffee across the table. You don't owe me anything, but thank you for showing me this. She wiped her eyes. What are you going to do? I looked out the window. I'm going to bury her, legally. The next morning, I sat in my car outside the Fayette County Courthouse, watching the clock tick toward 9 a.m. I hadn't slept. My mind ran through every version of what bury her legally could mean: lawsuits, exposure, or something more poetic. When I walked into the courthouse, I wasn't there to file a lawsuit. I was there to change my will again, this time publicly. Janelle helped me make it official through the probate office. I named my estate's successor trustee as a nonprofit I'd created overnight, the Granger Foundation for Women Starting Over. Every dollar that had ever gone to my sister would now go to women rebuilding their lives after betrayal. It was revenge disguised as charity. By that afternoon, the nonprofit paperwork was live online. My name, my mission, my story, all there. I didn't include Taryn's, but I didn't need to. People in Lexington talk. 3 days later, she called me from an unknown number. Her voice trembled with fury. You made me a joke, Delilah. Everyone at church knows. You called me a thief. I smiled into the silence. If the shoe fits, Taryn. You'll regret this. You always think you're so much better, sitting up there in that stupid condo, Click. I hung up, but she wasn't done. That night, someone tried to open my condo door. I heard the jingle of keys, soft curses, and then a frustrated slam. I waited, listening to the sound of retreating footsteps down the hall. I called the building security the next morning. Anyone try to access my unit last night? The guard checked the camera feed. Yeah, someone in a hoodie, short, blonde hair under the hood. Couldn't see her face, but looked like she was trying keys. Taryn. I sent the clip straight to Janelle. Within hours, she drafted a restraining order. But then, things took an even darker turn. Madeline texted me again, this time late at night. Mom's acting strange. She keeps saying things about you, says you're planning to sue her and ruin our lives. She's been drinking a lot. Dad's sleeping on the couch. I don't know what to do. I hesitated. I wasn't her mother. I wasn't her savior, but she was just a teenager caught in a storm she didn't create. Pack a bag, I texted. Come stay with me. Just for a few days. She showed up the next morning, tired, shaky, carrying one duffel bag and her school backpack. When she saw my condo, she froze. It's so quiet here. That's the point, I said softly. For 3 days, she stayed with me. I cooked her breakfast, helped her study, let her sleep. She laughed again, really laughed for the first time since all this began. On the 4th morning, while I was making coffee, there was a knock at the door. Sharp, angry, then a voice. Delilah, I know she's in there. You kidnapped my daughter. Taryn. Madeline went pale. I motioned for her to stay quiet, then opened the door just enough for my voice to carry. You're violating a restraining order, Taryn. The police are already on their way. You think you can hide behind paperwork. You destroyed my family, she screamed. No, I said calmly. You did. 2 minutes later, the elevator dinged open. 2 uniformed officers stepped out. Taryn froze, her rage dissolving into panic. They escorted her away as she screamed my name down the hallway. Madeline cried quietly on the couch. She's lost it, she whispered. She's really lost it. 2 days later, I received an email from Kurt. Delilah, I want to meet. There's something you need to know. It's about your parents. They were in on it more than you think. Please, it's time you learned the truth. I stared at the message for a long time, my pulse pounding. My parents, I thought the betrayal ended with my sister. I was wrong. I met Kurt in a small diner on the east side of town, one of those places with cracked leather booths and bottomless coffee refills. He looked older, exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. He slid into the booth across from me, eyes darting toward the window behind me. Thanks for coming, he said, his voice low. She doesn't know I'm here. I figured, I said, not touching my coffee. So, what do you know? He leaned in. Your parents. It wasn't just laughter that day, Delilah. They knew about the money, all of it, and they were in on a bigger plan. I froze. What kind of plan? He sighed, pulling out a folded document from his coat. Your father was talking to a financial advisor about accessing your estate. They thought, if anything happened to you, Taryn could claim power of attorney. He believed you were slipping mentally, said you were unstable. I stared at the paper in front of me, a fake letter on forged letterhead, supposedly from a doctor. It claimed I had early cognitive decline. They planned to file for guardianship, Delilah, Kurt whispered. Your father was going to push it through the courts while Taryn used it to access your accounts. They were waiting for the right moment. My chest tightened. I felt like I'd been thrown underwater. Why now? I asked. Why tell me this? Because, he said, his hands trembling slightly, your parents are still trying. That night I got a knock at the door, but it wasn't police. It was a child services officer. She showed me a clipboard. Miss Granger, we received a report that you may be mentally unfit and are harboring a minor against her legal guardian's wishes. I nearly laughed in her face. Instead, I invited her in. Madeline sat calmly at the kitchen table, sipping cocoa, her schoolwork neatly stacked beside her. She's here with my permission, I said, and she's not a hostage. You're welcome to ask her yourself. The officer spoke to Madeline for 10 minutes. Then she left, embarrassed and apologetic, but I wasn't surprised. This was Taryn's next move, try to paint me as dangerous, use legal threats, discredit me. She wanted my money, my name, my silence. She was about to get a war. I called Janelle the next morning. I want to take it public, I said. Public, she asked cautiously. I'm done hiding. If my parents and sister want to drag my name through the mud, let them do it while I shine a spotlight on every secret they've buried for decades. That week, A local news segment aired about my nonprofit for women escaping financial abuse. I didn't name names, I didn't have to. The reporters did that for me. They dug into the trust, the donations, the sudden disappearance of over $100,000 from Taryn's personal account, the forged medical letter, the guardianship attempts. Within 48 hours, everything unraveled. I received a flurry of angry emails from my parents. Threats, guilt trips, more lies, but none of it mattered, because the final twist hadn't landed yet. 3 days after the segment aired, I received a subpoena from my parents. They were suing me for defamation. My jaw dropped as I read the papers. They were trying to take what was left of my reputation and crush it in court. I looked at the envelope again and laughed out loud. "You really don't know who you're dealing with," I whispered. The lawsuit was a bluff, but it was a dangerous one. The defamation suit my parents filed was built on sand, a desperate, cracking foundation of lies and denial. They claimed I'd publicly humiliated them, that I'd broadcast false accusations, and destroyed their good standing in the community. They even demanded $250,000 in damages. It would have been laughable if it weren't so personal. Janelle called me that night. "This isn't just an insult, Delilah, it's a trap. They're hoping you'll panic and settle. But if you fight it, and we expose the guardianship fraud attempt in court, they're done." I paused. "So we go scorched earth." "I already filed the countersuit," she said, "and I've subpoenaed their bank records. If they were funneling money to Taryn behind the scenes, we'll find it." She wasn't wrong. What we uncovered next turned my stomach. My parents had been laundering my gifts through a shell account, something they opened in Taryn's name, disguised as a family investment account. They used it to siphon money from my shared banking permissions years ago, back when I trusted them. There were multiple wire transfers. Some small, $500 here, $1,200 there. Others massive. The largest, $17,000, moved right before my birthday last year. While they sent me a card that read, "We love you no matter what." Janelle ordered a forensic financial analysis. It took 10 days. On the 11th, she walked into my condo with a folder and a smile. "You're going to want to sit down." Inside were records going back 7 years. 7, all leading to a shocking truth. Taryn's house wasn't just paid for by my $50,000 down payment. The mortgage. Also paid partially, secretly, and consistently, by me. My name wasn't on the deed, but my money kept that roof over her head. They'd taken my generosity, cut it into pieces, and bled me dry behind my back. The morning of our first court appearance, I wore a steel blue pantsuit. Calm, controlled. Taryn walked in like a tornado in heels. Her lipstick was too red, her blouse too tight. She glared at me like I'd murdered her dog. My parents entered behind her. Cold, stoic. My mother wouldn't even look at me, I didn't flinch. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, called us to order. "Counsel for the defense," she said. Janelle stood. "Your Honor, before we begin, we have entered 3 new pieces of evidence into discovery." She handed the judge the file. My parents leaned in, trying to see what she was holding. It was the smoking gun. Bank records, emails, voice memos. One of them, a recording from Kurt, confirmed everything. The shell account, the forged medical letter, the plan to seize guardianship if I didn't start acting right. The judge's face changed. Her gaze sharpened. "We'll recess until tomorrow," she said, "and I suggest both parties consider withdrawing before we escalate further." But the Grangers don't go down easy. That night, I received a voicemail. It was my father. "You're nothing but a bitter, lonely woman, Delilah. You've humiliated this family. You think you've won? This isn't over. Blood doesn't go away." I played it twice. Then sent it straight to Janelle. She smiled. "Perfect, witness intimidation. Let's bury them." The courtroom was packed for the final hearing. Reporters lined the back wall. Word had gotten out. Wealthy woman sues her own family after catching them plotting to seize her estate. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. I didn't speak as I sat beside Janelle at the defendant's table, fingers locked tightly in my lap. Across from me, my parents looked hollow. My father, always so composed, had sweat glistening on his forehead. My mother stared at her lap like it might open up and swallow her. Taryn was stone-faced, but her legs bounced under the table, nervous energy she couldn't hide. Then came the moment we'd been waiting for. Janelle stood. "Your Honor, we respectfully request a motion for dismissal with prejudice." Not only was this lawsuit frivolous, but we have provided conclusive proof that the plaintiffs have committed fraud, forgery, unauthorized financial access, and attempted elder exploitation via fabricated medical documents. She paused, her voice calm, sharp. And we are filing a civil countersuit for damages exceeding $750,000. The judge didn't blink. She simply nodded. Motion granted. Plaintiffs, you may be subject to criminal investigation depending on findings submitted to the Attorney General's office. Gasps filled the courtroom. A reporter's pen snapped. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just exhaled for the first time in 2 years. The fallout was swift and public. Within weeks, my father lost his pension after his involvement in financial fraud came to light. My mother was publicly shamed by her church. They revoked her committee seat. She disappeared from Sunday services altogether. Taryn was fired from her job at a local real estate firm. Not because I asked, but because someone leaked the court documents online. She couldn't get another job for months. Their house went into pre-foreclosure after I froze all known access points to my financial support. But that wasn't the end. Not yet. 6 months later, I sent each of them an envelope. No letter, no note, just a printout. It was the online donation receipt showing the $750,000 settlement amount paid directly to the Granger Foundation. Their inheritance, gone. Their legacy, used to help abused women, single mothers, and financially trapped wives rebuild their lives, one grant at a time. Taryn didn't just lose her status. She lost her reputation. Her daughter refused to speak to her. Her husband left. She moved into a small rental in a rough part of town. I never said a word to her again. And Emma, she's in her 2nd year of college now. Double major in psychology and women's studies. On scholarship, but she never knew that half of it came anonymously through my foundation. She sends me postcards from campus every month. She signs them. For what it's worth, thank you for showing me what not to become. As for me, I'm 49 now. I spend my mornings on the balcony of my condo, drinking fresh coffee, watching the sunrise over Lexington. I read, I paint. I volunteer, I laugh, genuinely laugh with people who love me for who I am, not what I give. Sometimes I think about the betrayal, the laughter behind that gate, the fake smiles, the lies, and I don't regret a single thing I did. Because I didn't just get revenge, I reclaimed my life, and in doing so, I turned their greed into something beautiful. They tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed.